The Blackwood name meant everything in our city. It adorned buildings, graced charity gala invitations, and opened doors that remained firmly closed to others. My family had spent generations building an empire of real estate and investment firms, each generation adding to the legacy that was supposed to be my birthright. Until the day they decided I didn't deserve to be a Blackwood. I stood in my Uncle George's mahogany-paneled office, my hands trembling slightly as I held the business proposal I'd spent months perfecting. At 25, I was the youngest Blackwood to ever propose a new division for the family company. Technology investment? Uncle George's voice dripped with disdain as he flipped through my carefully prepared presentation. Elizabeth, this isn't what Blackwood Industries does. But it's where the future is heading, I insisted, pointing to my market research. We're losing opportunities by staying solely in real estate and traditional investments. Tech startups are the new frontier. My father, James Blackwood, sat silently in the corner, his face unreadable. He hadn't said a word since I'd started my presentation. The Blackwood name was built on solid ground, Uncle George continued, not digital fantasies. We deal in things we can touch, buildings, land, tangible assets. That's exactly my point, I leaned forward. The world is changing. If we don't adapt. Enough. Uncle George slammed my proposal down on his desk. This isn't about the company, Elizabeth. This is about you trying to prove something. Again. I felt my face flush. What's that supposed to mean? It means, he stood up, towering over his desk, that you've always been the problem child. Always trying to be different, to change things that don't need changing. My father finally stirred. George, perhaps. No, James. It's time someone said it. Uncle George's eyes bored into mine. You've been a disappointment since the day you chose to study computer science instead of business like the rest of the family. You think you know better than generations of successful Blackwoods. I lifted my chin. I think I see opportunities we're missing. The tech sector is booming and we're doing just fine without your revolutionary ideas. He spat the words like they tasted bitter. The board met this morning. We've decided to give your position to your cousin William. The room started spinning. William was 2 years younger than me and had barely graduated college. But he had one qualification I didn't. He never questioned the Blackwood way of doing things. You can't do that, I whispered. I've worked here for 3 years. You've earned nothing. Uncle George's face turned red. Everything you have is because of this family. The apartment, the connections, the respect in this city. It all comes from being a Blackwood. Without this family name, you're nothing. I turned to my father, hoping to see some support, some sign that he'd stand up for me. He met my eyes briefly before looking away. Your uncle is right, Elizabeth, he said quietly. You've always wanted to do things your way instead of learning from those who built this company. Maybe this is for the best. The betrayal felt like a physical blow. My own father choosing the family legacy over his daughter. Fine, I gathered my papers with shaking hands. I'll clean out my office. Oh, there's more. Uncle George's smile was cruel. The board also voted to restrict your trust fund access. Since you don't appreciate the traditional Blackwood values, you don't get to benefit from them either. I froze. You're cutting me off completely? Consider it motivation to learn some humility. The family apartments, cars, credit cards, all of it goes back to the company. You want to make it on your own? Here's your chance. I looked between them. My uncle's smug satisfaction, my father's weak resignation. These men who thought they could break me by taking away the golden cage they'd built around me. They had no idea they were actually setting me free. I walked to the door, then paused. You know what the funny thing is? While you've been busy protecting the past, I've been preparing for the future. Uncle George scoffed. What's that supposed to mean? I smiled, thinking of the small office I'd secretly rented 3 months ago, the connections I'd been building outside the family network, the plans I'd made just in case something like this happened. It means you just did exactly what I hoped you would. I pulled my company ID from my neck and dropped it on the floor. You made it personal. Are you threatening us? Uncle George's voice rose. You think you can compete with Blackwood Industries? Compete. I laughed. Oh no, Uncle George. I'm going to make you obsolete. I walked out of that office leaving my family name behind, but taking something far more valuable, motivation. They found my resignation letter on their desks the next morning. By noon, I had moved out of my company-owned apartment into a small studio I'd prepared as my backup plan. By evening, I had officially incorporated my new company, Phoenix Digital Ventures. The name was deliberate. Like the mythical bird, I would rise from the ashes of my old life. My seed money came from the portion of my trust fund I'd managed to transfer before they could freeze it, barely enough to rent a small office and hire 2 fresh graduates who were brilliant but overlooked by the big firms. The first year was brutal. I worked 18-hour days, sleeping on an air mattress in my office more often than in my apartment. My team and I lived on coffee and determination, scrutinizing every startup proposal that came our way, looking for that one perfect opportunity. We found it in a small AI company that the big investment firms had overlooked. The founders were brilliant but inexperienced in business. Exactly the kind of talent the Blackwoods would never notice. I spent 2 weeks living on their office couch, learning their technology, helping refine their business plan. We invested everything we had. It was either going to be our big break or our last mistake. 3 months later, Google acquired the company for $120 million. Phoenix Digital's share was enough to fund our next 10 investments. 8 of them paid off spectacularly. Suddenly, we weren't just another small investment firm. We were the ones who could spot unicorns before anyone else. But I knew better than to get cocky. I kept our success quiet, operating through subsidiaries and shell companies. The tech world knew Phoenix Digital was successful, but no one knew who really ran it. I watched from afar as my family continued their old ways. Uncle George gave interviews about the importance of traditional investment strategies. My father accepted awards for maintaining the Blackwood legacy. William, my replacement, made headlines for closing another predictable real estate deal. None of them noticed that their most promising client prospects were quietly being snatched up by a mysterious new player in the market. None of them realized that the future they'd refused to see was already here, undermining their empire one deal at a time. 2 years after they'd thrown me out, I stood in my new office on the top floor of a downtown skyscraper, looking out at the city that had once belonged to the Blackwoods. My team had grown from 2 to 50, then to 200. We had offices in Silicon Valley, London, and Singapore. My assistant Maya knocked on my door. "Miss Elizabeth? The numbers for the quarter are in." I took the report, smiling as I read. Phoenix Digital had just surpassed Blackwood Industries in total assets under management. The student had officially overtaken the teachers. "Also," Maya hesitated, "your father's secretary called again. They really want to schedule that meeting." Of course they did. Blackwood Industries had been losing tech clients at an alarming rate. Every major startup they approached seemed to already have a better offer from a mysterious competitor. "Tell them I'm busy," I replied, turning back to the window. "I have an empire to build." I had learned the most important lesson of all. Success doesn't come from a family name. It comes from seeing the future while others cling to the past. 3 years into building Phoenix Digital, I decided to host our first annual Tech Innovation Gala. It wasn't just any party, it was a statement. While the Blackwoods hosted their traditional charity balls in old money venues, we took over the city's most cutting-edge event space, transforming it into a showcase of future technology. The guest list was carefully curated: tech innovators, forward-thinking investors, and digital revolutionaries. The kind of people who would never get past the Blackwoods' strict social gatekeeping. Then came the call I'd been expecting. "Elizabeth." My father's voice sounded older through the phone. "We need to talk about the gala." I kept my voice neutral. "How did you get this number?" "I have my ways." He paused. "The whole city is talking about it. Every major tech company will be there. Even companies we've been trying to work with for months." "Fascinating," I replied, signing off on the final seating arrangements. "Was there something specific you needed?" "Don't play games, Elizabeth. Blackwood Industries needs to be represented at this event. We're still one of the largest investment firms in the city." I smiled, thinking of their steadily declining market share. "The guest list is already finalized." "We're your family," he pressed. "Surely you can make an exception." "Family." I laughed softly. Funny how that word only matters when you need something from me. Maya appeared in my doorway, holding up a note. "Uncle George is in the lobby." "Your uncle is here," my father admitted. "We thought perhaps a face-to-face conversation." I switched on my office security feed. There was Uncle George, looking distinctly uncomfortable in our ultramodern lobby, surrounded by young tech professionals in casual wear rather than his usual suited cronies. "Send him up," I told Maya. "That I'll call you back. Or better yet, I won't." I ended the call and waited. When Uncle George walked in, he tried to hide his shock at my success, but his eyes betrayed him as they darted around my expansive office. "Nice view," he managed. "Almost as good as the one from Blackwood Tower. Better, actually. I can see your building from here. It looks rather small from this height." He flushed but pressed on. "Elizabeth, let's be reasonable. This silly feud has gone on long enough. The family needs to present a united front." "United front?" I stood up. "Like when you united to throw me out. Or when you united to freeze my accounts." "That was business," he argued. "We were trying to teach you." "No," I cut him off. "You were trying to break me. To prove I was nothing without the Blackwood name. How's that working out for you?" He gritted his teeth. "Look, the tech sector is changing. We need to adapt. Your father and I have discussed it, and we're prepared to offer you a position back at Blackwood Industries. Executive Vice President of Digital Innovation." I burst out laughing. "You really don't get it, do you? I don't need your titles anymore. Phoenix Digital made more in profits last quarter than Blackwood Industries made all year." "That's impossible," he sputtered. "We would have heard." "Would you?" I pressed a button on my desk and the wall behind me transformed into a digital display showing Phoenix Digital's true reach. "We operate through 17 subsidiaries. You've actually tried to partner with 3 of them this year alone. We denied you each time." His face went pale as he recognized the company names, firms that had rejected Blackwood Industries partnership offers. "That was you. All this time." "All this time," I confirmed. "While you were clinging to your precious tradition, I was building the future." "Now about the gala." "Yes," he seized the opening. "Surely we can. Your invitation request is denied." I sat back down, dismissing him. "Phoenix Digital's events are for innovators and visionaries. You are neither. You can't do this to us. We're your family." "No, Uncle George. You're just another failed company that couldn't adapt to change. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a gala to plan." After he left, Maya brought in the latest guest list. "Your father's assistant has called 4 more times. And William sent an email claiming he's always supported your vision." I laughed. "Send them all the same response. Blackwood Industries can submit a formal partnership application through our website, just like everyone else. And their application will be reviewed and rejected just like everyone else's." The night of the gala arrived and I made sure it exceeded every expectation. The venue showcased prototypes from our most innovative portfolio companies. Holographic displays transformed the space into a glimpse of the future. Every major tech publication covered the event. I chose my outfit carefully. Not a designer brand the Blackwoods would recognize, but a cutting-edge piece from a tech fashion startup we'd funded. The dress responded to ambient light, shifting colors as I moved. From my private balcony overlooking the event, I watched the Blackwoods arrive uninvited, only to be stopped at the door. Uncle George's face turned purple as security turned him away. My father tried to argue that there must be some mistake. William attempted to sneak in through a side entrance. I sipped my champagne and enjoyed the show. Later that evening, as I took the stage to give my keynote speech, I looked out at the crowd of true innovators, brilliant minds who had been overlooked by traditional investors like the Blackwoods. 3 years ago, I began, someone told me I was nothing without my family name. They thought they were ending my story, but they were actually starting it. Because sometimes, losing everything you thought you needed is the first step to building something better. The crowd erupted in applause. Through the window, I could see the Blackwood Industries building, its old-fashioned architecture a relic of the past. My new empire, built on innovation and vision rather than tradition and surnames, cast its shadow over it. The next morning, the tech world was buzzing about Phoenix Digital's revolutionary showcase. Every major publication covered the event, praising our vision for the future. Blackwood Industries wasn't mentioned once. My father left a voicemail, "Elizabeth, please. The family legacy." I deleted it before he could finish. The Blackwood legacy was exactly what I'd left behind, and my new legacy was just beginning. 1 week later, I received a thick envelope, an invitation to the annual Blackwood Charity Ball. Inside was a handwritten note from my father. "The family isn't the same without you." I took out my favorite pen and wrote my response on the invitation. "The future isn't the same without innovation. Enjoy living in the past." I sent it back with a copy of Phoenix Digital's latest financial report, showing exactly how much their outdated approach had cost them. Maya knocked on my door. "Another acquisition offer from Blackwood Industries. They're getting desperate." I smiled, remembering Uncle George's words from 3 years ago. "Without this family name, you're nothing." "Send them our standard response," I said. "Phoenix Digital is not for sale. Especially not to companies stuck in the last century." Looking out at my growing empire, I realized the truth. I hadn't just proven them wrong about me. I'd proven them wrong about everything. While they protected their precious legacy, I had built the future. The Blackwood name still opened doors in the city, but increasingly those doors led to empty rooms. The real power had shifted to new names, new visions, new empires. And mine was just getting started. Later that week, I approved plans for our new headquarters, a towering structure of glass and sustainable technology that would dwarf Blackwood Tower. It would be built right across from their building, ensuring they had a daily reminder of what they'd lost. The best revenge, after all, isn't just success. It's success they can't ignore, can't diminish, and can't enter. As for the family name they thought I couldn't survive without, I'd replaced it with something better. My own legacy, built not on birth but on vision, not on tradition but on innovation. And unlike the Blackwood Empire, mine was built to last. 5 years after that first gala, I stood in my office reviewing an unexpected proposal. Blackwood Industries was officially for sale. Years of refusing to adapt had finally caught up with them. The irony wasn't lost on me. They had once cast me out for suggesting they needed to change. Now they were facing obsolescence because they hadn't. Maya brought in the latest market analysis. "They're asking 1/10 of what they were worth when you left. Should I prepare a bid?" I thought about it. Buying them would be the ultimate victory. The company they thought I didn't deserve to be part of would become just another subsidiary of my empire. But that would be too easy. Too clean an ending for them. No, I decided. Let them sink. Some legacies deserve to end. I had built something they could never understand. An empire based on merit rather than birthright, on innovation rather than tradition. And that was worth more than any revenge. Besides, I had a future to build. And the past? Well, that belonged to the Blackwoods.